The cafeteria went quiet when Marcus Hale walked in. Not the usual prison quiet, the kind where conversations drop to whispers and forks scrape metal trays. This was different. This was the silence that comes when every inmate, every guard, every soul in that room stops breathing at exactly the same moment. Emily Dawson felt it before she saw him. A shift in the air, like the temperature had dropped 10 degrees. She was mid-bite, plastic spork halfway to her mouth, when the woman across from her, Rhonda, doing 15 for manslaughter, went pale. "Jesus Christ," Rhonda whispered. "That's him." Emily turned. The man moving through the cafeteria doors wasn't physically imposing. Average height, maybe 50 years old, gray threading through dark hair. He wore the same orange jumpsuit as everyone else. But the way he moved, shoulders squared, eyes forward, steps measured and deliberate, made it clear he wasn't like everyone else. Guards flanked him, but they looked nervous. One kept his hand near his baton. The other wouldn't make eye contact. "Who is he?" Emily asked. Rhonda's voice was barely audible. "Marcus Hale." They finally got him. The name meant nothing to Emily. She'd only been in Blackwood Women's Correctional for 8 months, transferred from county after her conviction for accessory to fraud. She kept her head down, did her time, stayed out of the politics that ruled every cell block in the prison. But something about the way Rhonda said that name made Emily's skin crawl. "Got him for what?" Rhonda leaned in. "You don't understand. Marcus Hale doesn't belong here. He's not supposed to be in prison. He's supposed to be dead." The story spread through the prison like smoke through ventilation shafts. Marcus Hale had been an accountant. Quiet life, quiet family. Wife Sarah. 2 daughters, 12 and 14. They lived in a suburb 3 hours south of Blackwood, in a town where people left their doors unlocked and kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. Then Sarah witnessed something she shouldn't have. She'd been working late at the county courthouse. She was a clerk there, filing paperwork, nothing glamorous. But one night she saw something in the records room. Files that shouldn't exist. Names that belonged to dead cases. Money moving through sealed accounts. She told her husband. Marcus told her to go to the FBI. 3 days later, their house burned down. Sarah and the girls were inside. The official report said faulty wiring. But everyone knew. The names in those files belonged to people connected to a trafficking network that ran through half the state. Judges, police captains, businessmen. People who could make witnesses disappear. Marcus Hale disappeared too, but not the way they wanted. For 2 years, men connected to that network started dying. Not quickly. Not cleanly. They died in ways that made hardened detectives leave the room during autopsies. They died in their homes, in their cars, in places they thought were safe. No evidence. No witnesses. No leads. Until Marcus walked into a police station 6 months ago and confessed. Not because they caught him. Because he was finished. Emily didn't see Marcus again for 3 days. Blackwood wasn't built for male inmates. This was a women's facility, high security, housing everything from white-collar criminals like Emily to lifers convicted of murder. But Marcus Hale's case was unique. The judge had placed him in protective custody pending his appeals, and Blackwood had a small isolated wing that could accommodate him. Isolated but not separate. On the 4th day, Emily was assigned to laundry duty. The industrial washers were in the basement level, a concrete maze of pipes and steam where sound echoed wrong and the lights flickered like they were considering giving up entirely. She was hauling a basket of wet sheets when she saw him. Marcus was mopping the floor in the corridor that connected the laundry room to the maintenance tunnels. A guard stood 15 feet away watching, but something about the scene felt staged. Like the guard was there for appearance, not function. Emily kept her head down, pulling the basket past him. "Emily Dawson." His voice was quiet. "Come." The kind of calm that comes from a man who's already done the worst thing he'll ever do and now has nothing left to fear. She froze. "I don't know you." "No," Marcus said, still mopping, not looking at her. "But I know you." The guard shifted, hand moving toward his radio, but Marcus didn't raise his voice. Didn't change his posture. He just kept working, the mop swishing across the concrete in slow, deliberate strokes. "Your husband," Marcus continued, "David Dawson. He worked for Meridian Financial Group." Emily's chest tightened. "I don't talk about that." "You don't have to." Marcus dipped the mop in the bucket, wrung it out. "Meridian was a shell company. Laundering money for the same people who killed my family. Your husband moved $40 million through offshore accounts before they burned him." "I didn't know." "I know you didn't." Marcus finally looked at her. His eyes were gray, empty, like staring into fog. "That's why you're still breathing." Emily's hand shook. The guard was saying something into his radio now, but Marcus wasn't done. David's still alive, Emily. Witness protection, new name, new life. He gave them 6 people to stay out of prison. Marcus leaned on the mop handle. You took his fall because they needed someone to convict. A wife who signed documents she didn't read. Easy target. The room tilted. Emily had spent 8 months telling herself it was a mistake, that the appeals would work, that someone would see she'd been used. But hearing it said out loud, hearing it from a man who'd killed 11 people in cold blood, made it real in a way that broke something inside her. Why are you telling me this? Marcus went back to mopping. Because you're going to help me. Emily didn't sleep that night. Her cellmate, a woman named Gloria who was serving 20 for embezzlement, snored in the bunk above her. The air was thick, stale, tinged with the smell of industrial soap and something else. Something indefinable that every prison had, a scent that clung to your skin and never quite washed off. She stared at the underside of Gloria's mattress and replayed the conversation. You're going to help me. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the certainty of a man who'd already planned every move and knew she had no choice. But she did have a choice. She could report him. Tell the warden. Tell anyone. Except she knew what happened to informants in Blackwood. She'd seen it. A woman named Tasha had ratted out a cellmate for smuggling pills. 2 weeks later, Tasha slipped in the shower. Cracked her skull. Ruled an accident. Emily wasn't stupid. She knew Marcus wasn't working alone. Someone had put him in that corridor at that exact moment. Someone wanted her to hear what he had to say. She closed her eyes. David's face flickered behind her eyelids. The man she'd married, the man who'd promised her a good life, who'd kissed her goodbye the morning the FBI kicked in their door. The man who'd let her take the fall while he walked away free. 8 months. 8 months of gray walls, stale air, and the constant fear that came from living in a place where violence simmered just below the surface every second of every day. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe she was going to help him. The next morning, Emily found a note in her laundry cart. It was folded inside a clean pillowcase, written on a torn piece of paper in cramped handwriting. Storage room C, 3 p.m. Come alone. She burned it in the bathroom sink, flushed the ashes, and spent the next 6 hours trying to figure out how to say no. But at 2:55 p.m., she was standing outside storage room C. It was a glorified closet near the west cell block, used for cleaning supplies and broken furniture waiting for repair. The door was slightly ajar. Emily glanced down the corridor, empty, and slipped inside. Marcus was already there, sitting on an overturned bucket. Another man stood behind him, a guard Emily recognized. His name was Porter, and he had the look of someone who'd been on the take long before Marcus arrived. Sit, Marcus said, gesturing to a folding chair. Emily sat. If this is about revenge. It's not revenge. Marcus's voice was flat. Revenge is emotional. This is accounting. Porter handed Marcus a folder. He opened it, pulled out a stack of photographs, and laid them on a crate between them. Emily looked. The first photo showed a man in his 60s, gray suit, standing outside a courthouse. The second showed the same man getting into a black sedan. The third was a driver's license. Franklin Mercer, district judge. This is the man who signed the order to seal my wife's evidence, Marcus said. He took $200,000 to bury it. My family burned because he wanted a vacation home in Boca. He pulled out another photo. A woman, mid-40s, professional headshot. Linda Garrett, state prosecutor. She knew the charges against your husband were fabricated. She knew you were innocent. She prosecuted you anyway because it closed the case and made her conviction rate look good. Emily's stomach turned. Why are you showing me this? Because they think they're safe. Marcus leaned forward. They think I'm locked up, neutered, irrelevant. They don't know I spent 2 years building a network. People who owe me. People who believe in the same kind of justice I do. And you want me to what? Kill them. Marcus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No. I want you to deliver a message. He pulled out a phone, an old burner taped to the back of the crate. You've got a parole hearing in 6 weeks. Linda Garrett is on the review board. She's going to deny you. He slid the phone toward Emily. Unless you make a call. Emily stared at the phone like it was a live grenade. I'm not a killer. No, Marcus agreed. But you're a prisoner. And prisoners don't have the luxury of clean hands. Emily didn't touch the phone. Not that day. But 3 days later she learned that Gloria, her cellmate, had been transferred to medical isolation. Infected wound, they said. Staph infection from a dirty needle. Emily knew better. The bunk above hers was empty now. The cell felt bigger, colder. And on the 6th night, she found another note tucked inside her pillowcase. Time's running out. She held the note until her hands stopped shaking. Then she picked up the burner phone Marcus had left her and made the call. Linda Garrett answered on the 3rd ring. "Who is this?" Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "You don't know me, but I know you." Silence on the other end. Then, "How did you get this number?" "It doesn't matter." Emily's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might crack a rib. "You're going to approve my parole. You're going to vote yes, and you're not going to ask questions." "Is this a joke?" "No." Emily closed her eyes. "This is Marcus Hale." The line went dead silent. When Linda spoke again, her voice was thin, brittle. "What do you want?" "I want you to remember Sarah Hale," Emily said. "And I want you to know that if I don't walk out of here in 6 weeks, someone's going to remember you." She hung up. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped the phone. It clattered to the concrete floor, and Emily sat on the edge of her bunk, staring at it, waiting for her heart to slow down. She'd just crossed a line she didn't know existed. And there was no going back. The parole hearing was on a Tuesday. Emily sat in a gray room with fluorescent lights and 3 people behind a table. A court-appointed psychologist, a prison administrator, and Linda Garrett. Linda looked older than her photo. Tired. Her hands trembled slightly as she shuffled through Emily's file. The psychologist asked questions. Emily answered them. The administrator made notes. And then Linda spoke. "I've reviewed your case," she said, not looking at Emily. "Given the circumstances, I believe you've served sufficient time for your involvement." The administrator frowned. "Ms. Garrett, the sentencing recommendation was?" "I'm aware." Linda's voice was ice. "But I'm changing my vote." "She's approved." Emily felt the room tilt. 3 weeks later, she walked out of Blackwood Women's Correctional. Freedom felt wrong. The sky was too big. The air too thin. Emily stood outside the prison gates with a plastic bag containing her belongings and a check for $73, her remaining commissary balance. A car pulled up. Black sedan, tinted windows. The passenger door opened. Marcus Hale sat in the driver's seat. He wasn't in an orange jumpsuit anymore. He wore a dark jacket, jeans, and the same empty expression he'd had in the laundry room. "Get in," he said. Emily didn't move. "How?" "Protective custody transfer. Minimum security facility upstate. I walked out yesterday." He gestured to the passenger seat. "We need to talk." She got in. The car smelled like cigarettes and old leather. Marcus drove in silence for 20 minutes before pulling into an empty parking lot overlooking the highway. He killed the engine. "Your husband's alive," Marcus said. "David Dawson. New name, Richard Cole. He's living in Arizona, working for a tech startup, engaged to a woman he met 6 months ago." Emily's throat closed. "I could have killed him," Marcus continued. "But I didn't. Because you helped me. And because sometimes the worst punishment isn't death. It's knowing you destroyed someone's life and got away with it." He pulled a manila envelope from the glove box and handed it to her. Inside were documents. Bank statements. Property records. Photos of David, Richard, smiling at a restaurant with a woman Emily didn't recognize. "You've got 2 choices," Marcus said. "Walk away. Start over. Pretend none of this happened." He paused. "Or finish what we started." Emily stared at the photos. David's face. His new life. His clean hands. She thought about the 8 months she'd spent in Blackwood. The fear, the violence, the slow erosion of everything she thought she was. She thought about Sarah Hale and her daughters, burning alive because they saw something they shouldn't have. She thought about Linda Garrett, walking free, sleeping soundly, pretending her hands were clean. Emily closed the envelope. "What do you need me to do?" Marcus smiled. For the first time since she'd met him, it looked genuine. 6 months later, a man named Richard Cole was found dead in his Arizona apartment. The official report said heart attack. Natural causes. No signs of foul play. But those who knew, those who understood the silent debt that ran beneath the surface of the world, they knew better. Emily Dawson never went back to prison. She disappeared into the kind of life that doesn't leave records or fingerprints. A ghost in plain sight. And sometimes late at night she thought about Marcus Hale. About the empty look in his eyes. About the way revenge wasn't loud or dramatic. It was patient. It was cold. It was a debt paid in silence, one life at a time. And it never ever stopped collecting.